All right. So I remember that we stopped in our last class. That was on Friday in doing classes or talking about classes. So uh, today we're going to go in depth into object-oriented programming. Okay. And then we'll talk about objects of a class, constructors, getter and setters, inheritance, and extending the class. Okay. Um, so Um, what's object-oriented programming? Um, OOP is a fundamental programming used by nearly every developer at some point in their career. Yeah, it's the most popular programming paradigm used for software development and is taught as the standard way to code for most of a programmer's educational career. Okay, so we're going to go deeply into this. So just pay attention, all right? Of course, we're still going to try out examples. So, but let me just give you a rundown of what it entails. Okay, so um, OOP, object-oriented programming, uh, in computer science, it relies on the concept of classes and objects. It is used to structure a software program into simple, reusable pieces of code blueprints. Uh, those blueprints are usually classes, which are used to create individual instances of objects. So, but just get to know that there are many object-oriented programming languages. Yes, including JavaScript, C++, Java, and Python. Okay, so I remember saying in our last class that a class is an abstract blueprint that creates more specific, concrete objects. So classes often represent broad categories like car or dog that share attributes. Now, these classes define what attributes an instance of this type will have, like color. Okay, so classes can also contain functions called methods that are available only to objects of that type. Okay, so these functions are defined within the class and perform some action helpful to that specific object type. Like in your recent assignment or recent task, those of you that submitted, there are a lot of you that actually implemented functions, that use functions in your uh, tax one assignment, especially in the banking uh, section where one has to withdraw amount. Okay, so although classes was not implemented, so but we're going to cover that aspect. All right, so let's see. Now, what are the benefits of OOP for software engineering? For number one point should be OOP models. It models complex things. Okay, it models complex things as reproducible, simple structures. Okay, if something is complex, if a problem is complex, when you bring in OOP, it models those complex things as reproducible, simple structures. All right. Then OOP is reusable, and the objects can be used across programs. Then there's what is called polymorphism, but I'll get to that anyway. So, but polymorphism allows for class-specific behavior. Now, it's easier to debug when it comes to the benefits of OOP. All right. Then the classes often contain all applicable information to them. It securely protects sensitive information through encapsulation. All right. So now let's see. I'm going to switch over to my VS Code now. So if you're joining, just pay attention. All right. So this is what I'm going to do. I noticed that some of you actually, like one of you did not name the file correctly, or maybe some having challenges with creating the file. So this is my VS Code now. It's just pinned on my taskbar. If I should right click, these are folders that I've actually opened. All right, so I can just come here and just pick one, or I can go to new window. Okay. Now this is a new window. I come here, open folder, and then create a folder. But I know there's a folder I've used. Let me see. Is it this one? Okay. This one is an empty folder. So I can actually just select it and then select folder. Okay. It's not actually empty, so it has what we actually covered previously. So if I want to create more files, I come here, type in, now we're dealing with classes or OOP. So let's say OOP dot the extension that. So just wait for it. It creates a new file. Then there was one of you that also didn't put, or your source code didn't have an entry point. And I made mention that if you don't have an entry point, your source code is going to be full of errors. This entry point. Okay, so AI is already giving examples. Okay, so that's it basically. Let me comment this. Go back to OP. All right. So let's say, for instance, let's take a real world problem, okay? And then design an OOP software program. So let's say, imagine running a dog sitting camp with hundreds of pets, where you keep track of the name of the pet, the ages of the pet, and days attended for each pet. Now, how would one design simple, reusable software model to model the dogs? I mean, let's say you have like 100 dogs. Now, it would be inefficient to write unique entries for each dog because you will be writing a lot of redundant code. Now, this also applies to the tags you just did recently, where, because I noticed that a lot of you, when it comes to the final solution where you have to print a number plus another number or minus another number and then equal to this. So you have it repeatedly in each successive line of code. But there was one that actually didn't repeat that. The person, I think two persons, only just placed it at the end. And each time I do the calculation, it prints out the number plus the number equals to the number. Yes. So now the person only did it once, while there were others who did it multiple times or more times. All right. That's more like redundant code. Okay. But so OOP helps you to structure your code such that you're not writing too many things. Okay. All right. So let's say, for instance, now we have var, let's say Rufus, and then curly bracket. Okay, let's use this and see. I just want to like do something. Now this here it's a function. Okay, so let's go. We have name, age. I need something else. Let's say let's just add oh, just to make things simpler. All right, then we'll have attendance. Okay, let me put this away first. Then this. Okay. All right. So we have this now. This object of one dog. Just this is the object of one dog. And then let's say you do the same thing again for another dog. Let's say we'll come here, copy this, and do this again. But this time around, let me say fluffy. Okay. Okay. Let's give you age 10. And then yeah. So if you look at this source code now, you see that there's a lot of duplicated code between both objects, the age, okay? Then this back appears in both code in each object. So since we want the same information for each dog, we can use objects and classes instead. So grouping related information together to form a class structure makes the code shorter and easier to maintain. Okay, so let's say now, as a programmer, this is how a programmer should think. But before I go on further, the task you did recently, now, I found out that each time I carry out uh, a calculation, maybe addition or subtraction, when it gives the answer, the output, I have to run the code again from the beginning for me to carry out a calculation again. When it does, it exists. It exits, it ends, the program ends. Now, imagine you have a calculator and you're in the exam hall. And after you carry out a transaction, let's say a calculation, then you press equal to, you get your answer, and then the calculator goes off. And then when you want to do another calculation again, immediately as possible, you have to turn it on again. You carry out another calculation, it goes off, or it applies to the banking too. you get to withdraw your money, and then after withdrawing your money and it shows you the balance, the app just logs out without you actually having the giving the privilege to actually log out when you want to. Assuming you want to like maybe do a deposit or you want to do another thing on the app. So as a programmer, one thing that should come to mind is if this program runs, it should be able to run continuously until I'm done doing what I want to do as a user on that program, and then exit the program when I want to. I understand the aspect of where you log in with wrong password 3 times consecutively, right? And then it says it logs you out. Yes, that's fine. Yes, but in a situation where you are in the app, you carry out a transaction and you want to do another transaction, you want that program to continue running until when you are done doing all the transactions you want to carry out on the program or on the app. So that's where OOP comes in. All right. So now, as a programmer, what you do is that you create a class for all dogs as a blueprint of information and behaviors, methods that all dogs will have, regardless of type. Okay. Now, this class is called the parent class. Then you create subclasses to represent different subcategories of dogs under the main blueprint. Now, these are called child classes. Then you add unique attributes and behaviors to the child classes to represent differences. Then lastly, create objects from the child class that represent dogs within that subgroup. Okay, so that's how a programmer will go about this, implementing OOP. Now, in the slide, we have classes, objects of class. Now, let's look at examples under this and follow this through. I'm going to remove this. Okay. And then let's say, let's create a class of car. Now, this is an example of objects of class. Okay. So we have class of car. And then now what properties do you find in the car? You find the make, the model, the year. All right. So let's say we have string. We're going to use a brand. And then let's do year. Okay. Then now there's something we call constructors. Okay. There's something we call constructors. So this class of car, we just defined a new class, all right, named car. Then declared two properties, which is the brand and the year. Now, this, what you see next is constructor. Let me, okay, constructor to initialize the properties. All right, whether properties or parameters, whichever you might refer them to as. Now, let's move on further. Now we'll have a method to display the card details. All right, this is a method to display card details. And what are we displaying? We're displaying the brand and the year. Okay, we could also have other properties as well. All right, as many properties that a car can have. Then we'll go with okay. Now we're going to be creating an object of the car class. All right, just like here it says creating an instance of the car class. Instance or object, whichever one, creating an instance or creating an object of the car class. Now to do that, okay. So we have car. This is a variable name, my car. Okay. Then brand name and the year. Now, if we want to call the method on the my car object, then we'll go, first of all, this name here, my car, dot, this display details, we are calling the method here. All right, so we'll have that. And then see what the output will be like. This is where my run is. Now this is the entry point, okay? So it gives us the car brand, which is Toyota, and the year of the car, 2020. So what just happened now? We just create a new object, my car, of the car here. We created an object or an instance of the object here. While this one calls the display info method, this on the my car. This calls the method, this method here, all right, and displays the details, the brand and the year. So this is what is actually being displayed here. Okay, so take note, constructors. If you don't have this, you find that you have errors here. Yes. And then there are times where there are properties that are going to be required, like they are compulsory, because even after declaring this, you still find that something else is still missing. Why? Please, if you can't hear me, always do well to notify me, okay? All right. So let's move on to another example. This time around, let's say constructors. It's almost similar though, but let's create a class of student. Let's see. The class of student. Okay. You have name and age. These are properties. Okay. Then the constructor initializes the properties. Here you are declaring. This is declaring. Declaring the properties, all right, or initializing. Okay, constructor to initialize the properties. Then you have a method to display the student details, name, age, could be more, all right? Then next you have void main. Okay, all right. Now here we are actually creating, let me put it, creating an instance or creating objects using the constructor. Let me say default and named constructors. This defines the default constructor, this.name, this.age. Okay, so still same, taking two parameters. So student.named, all right? This.name, this.age defines a name constructor. This creates two new objects, name and age. What is the difference between here and this? Car, my car, right? student one, then this variable, we're calling this method here to give this output, Alice and age. Now, if you notice, they're almost similar, if not similar, very, very. So that's for objects of class. Constructors. Now let's look at getter and setters. When it comes to getters and setters, put this here. Getters and setters are special methods that provide read and write access to an object's properties. Okay? They are special methods that provide read and write access to an object's properties. Now, getters are functions that are used to retrieve the values of an object's properties and are defined using the get keyword. They are defined using the get keyword. An example is this. Let's do a class person. Okay. Yeah, it's already printing out all of this. Yeah, has to write them. Okay. I'll just print them out and then now you notice that there's a sign here, more like a dash before the name. This is a private variable. It's a private variable. Then you have constructors, but I want to focus more on getter and setters. All right. When we come to the encapsulation and polymorphism and all that, then we'll get into, I'll explain more further on that. Now, what's happening here is that we declared, or I declared a private variable or a private property, all right? Now, this is a type of string, all right? String data. Now, this defines a getter. Like I said earlier, getters are functions that are used to retrieve the values of an object's properties and are defined using get keyword. So what do we want to get here now? I want to get name. Okay. So this very syntax here defines a getter for the name property that returns the value of name. Okay. So of course, we'll still get to setter. Now, this aspect, it defines a setter. Setters are functions that are used to write the values of an object's properties and are defined using set keyword. So setters and getters are both functions, but the difference is that getters retrieves the values of an object, while setters write the values of an object. An object's properties, these properties. So now we have getter, we have setter. What have we? We're getting name here, then we're setting name here, name property here. We want to get the age, and here we're setting the age. Says if new age is greater than 0, then the age property is equals to the new age. All right, else print age must be positive. Okay, so this is when it comes to getter and setter. By the time we start building apps, you see the application of it. All right, so I'm just pointing out examples here so that you just have a basic understanding. Then now there's what we call, I think the next thing there is inheritance. Inheritance. Inheritance is one of the core concepts of object-oriented programming. It's a concept through which you can create a new class from an already existing class. Now, this new class inherits the properties and methods of the existing class. I'll go over it again, or I'll say it again. Inheritance is a concept. You can create a new class from an already existing class. The new class inherits the properties and methods of the existing class. Now, the class that inherits the class members is known as the subclass, while the class that is being inherited from is known as the superclass. Okay, so now the question is, when do we use inheritance? Whenever we come across an is a relationship between objects. For example, cycle is a shape. That is a programming language. Car is a vehicle. So there's a relationship between objects. Cycle is a shape. That is a programming language. Car is a vehicle. So that is a, all right? That answers the question, when to use inheritance. Now let's look at an example. Let's see. I want to use something different entirely. Let's do a class of product. And then we have string name 52. And then we have num price. Okay. Let's do string, say expiry date. Okay. Then declare our constructors. It's going to be product. Oops. Same. The program must have method body because product is an abstract. Okay. I'm supposed to work out. What's happening?
Sorry, sir. So please, line 71, your products, P is small letter.
Okay, okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I didn't see that. Oh, okay. Let me return this bar. So my shift is not actually responding when I click on it. To press it hard. Okay, all right. Thank you for that. All right, so now let's move on to say void prints. Let's use details, right? I think that should work. Yeah. Okay. Then this is a product class. Okay. So let's do now what product do we look at? Let's look at beverage. Beverage. This example is supposed to be for, okay, extending classes. Okay. No problem. I'll just set it up and then is for extending classes. Yeah. I'll get to that because that's supposed to be like the last thing before moving to. So we're going to do inheritance. Yeah. And then class of animal. Okay. Let's see what this does. String. Okay. Make sound. Print name. Yes. Dog is one thing here. Let's give so much example. So void make sound, okay. Animal sound, all right. Then we have class dog. My dog, okay. And then my dog makes sound. Oops. Okay. So what do we have here? We have inheritance here. This very code here, just ignoring this one, just ignore that one. This is what we want here. This dog class inherits the sound method. What method? This method. And remove this. From this animal. More like when you say something like you inherit something from somebody. You inherit like your parents' wealth, or you inherit your father's eyes, or your mom's height, like that. So in this case, just look at it in that angle. This dog is inheriting the sound method from this animal. Now, what's the relationship between this animal and this object? Is that dog is an animal. Dog is an animal. Just like I made mention earlier, a cycle is a shape. Car is a vehicle. That's what you need to know about inheritance. So if you've forgotten what I said about inheritance, I said it's a concept where you create a new class from an already existing class. You create a new class from an already existing class. Okay? Now, the new class, this dog class, inherits the properties and methods of the existing class. Now, there are no properties yet, it's just method. All right, I actually deleted properties. It's just method here. So it's actually inheriting the method of this existing class. Now, the class that inherits the class members is known as a subclass. So this is a subclass, this is superclass. Okay, that's inheritance. It's inheriting. Now, there's a method in this animal, and this dog is inheriting the sound. This sound method. Okay, so that explains inheritance. There's an existing class, and you create a new class that is inheriting the method or properties of the existing class. Okay, so I think that should clarify things. Yeah, so let's move on to extending classes. Although it's still under inheritance, like yes, but this time around we're having properties. Okay, we're having properties, we're having methods. Okay, so extending classes is actually another way of saying inheritance. Okay, so for this code now, let's see. I think I'm gonna have to redo this again. Let's see. Okay, we have string type. We have let's have norm. Let's see letters. So the reason why this is indicated red because it's one of the properties that is not initialized. So we need to add that. Let's do that here. Then we'll have string. Yeah, okay, no. I'm supposed to make this dots. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then void. Okay. So the print, let's make use of beverage details. Yeah. Okay. What am I missing? Okay. Then okay. And then type. This to be interfering. So let's comment that out. And then bring in does this work? Okay. See. Okay. Now, when you're writing your codes, try to ensure that you don't have any errors or warnings. There might be warnings though, but try to limit it. You'll usually see warnings or problems here. Okay, like this one is saying unused import. Try removing the import directive. So if I should click on this, it takes me to where this is displaying, and since it said it's not used, just comment it out and it's gone. No problems have been detected in the workspace. All right, so let's go back to continue. That's why I said it's very important that you don't rely so much on AI. Even though AI is trying to give you examples, just be very careful to look at the code and understand it. Know what ought to be there and what ought not to be there. I know for some of you actually implemented AI in your recent tasks though. Yeah, but it's fine. At least you're already having the idea, but stick to learning before implementing AI. What AI does is that it makes your work fast when you're building. Yes, like when you're building projects, it makes your work really, really fast. Okay, so this is 12:59, 1 more hour left. Let's see if we can probably create a Flutter app project, maybe like as quickly as possible. Okay, so what do we have here? Let's try and understand what is here. Now, let's see. Now, the product class has three instances, all right, or properties or parameters, okay? There you have the name, the price, expiry date of a product, okay? So, or variables, instance variables. Now, it has a generative constructor, okay? Then one method. It only just prints the product name, the price, and the expiry date. So these properties of the product, it prints it out, okay? Now, on this other hand, next in line, we have a subclass, okay, beverage, that is extending the product class using the keyword extends, okay? Then we also have the constructor too as well. So I'm just kind of walking you through the code base, through the source code. Then so now you notice that there's something here called super. Now, to assign the first three parameters of the beverage constructor, we are using the product constructor super. Super is used by a subclass to refer to its superclass. This word super is used by a subclass to refer to its superclass. This superclass, like we said before, is an already existing class. Okay. Now, the beverage details, this here, is using the product method, print details. This method here is using the product method. All right, to print the values of the properties, liters, type, name, that's name, price, expiry date. So it displays its own properties. Okay. All right. So in the main function, let's go to the main function. In the main function, we are creating an instance of the beverage class. Okay. This is extending a class. So I just walked you through the source code. This is extending the class. So the focus is usually on this part. All right. It extends the product. The product, which is the super class or the existing class. All right. I told you what super is. We have a constructor. All right. So that this basically explains extending the class, because you're going to be doing more of this when you start building apps. You see a lot more of it where a class extends a state a state widget or a stateful widget or consumer widget. You know, it just extends classes like that. All right, but those are actually inbuilt widgets. Yes, so I think this should be it about OOP. All right. So like I said before, let me just do a rundown of course you can do more research, okay, on OOP so that you get yourself like acquainted and really get to understand. But if you follow these explanations that are given to you, yeah, it should be like a foundation. Now, I made mention of inheritance, okay, polymorphism, you know, and so on. Now, these are principles of OOP. There are actually four of them, all right? You have inheritance, we have encapsulation, we have abstraction, and polymorphism. Inheritance, child classes inherit data and behaviors from the parent class. That's for inheritance. For encapsulation, is containing information in an object, exposing only selected information. For example, a wallet, you have your ID card in it, you have money inside it, you have ATM card inside it, you have coins inside it, all right? But you're only exposing selected information. And what is that selected information? Like money. Of course, you can't expose your card details. You only use it when you want to carry out a transaction. Yes. Okay. So then you have abstraction. Abstraction only exposing high-level public methods for assessing an object. Okay. Then polymorphism is like how do I put it now? like many methods can do the same task. Okay, so these are the four pillars. You can still go read more on OOP, the principles, because they are really wide and broad. Okay, so but these are just this is just the basics. All right, because this week I want to see how that we can start with Flutter. Yeah, with Flutter. Let's see. Okay, does anybody have question? Let me find out. Does anybody have question? Is there any way you're lost?
Maybe not yet.
Okay, not yet. All right. Okay, no problem. All right, so let's move to Flutter. Now,
I have
what
a
you need.
question on this inheritance. It's not very clear to me, sir.
Inheritance is not very clear. Okay, that's Helen. Is it everything about inheritance that I just said that is not clear, or which part exactly?
So I just brushed through it again. I understood the super and sub inheritance, but hey, just brushed through it.
Okay. Let's see. It's actually a lot though, but I'll get back to you like after the class. Let me just move on to, all right, maybe like at the end of the class or after the class. All right, I'll just quickly do a rundown. All right, so let's see. I want us to actually get into Flutter. I know I gave this link as part of resources because this way you actually follow the steps to install Flutter. All right, so now there was let me see. I think it should be here. Let's see. Okay. Now there was something I told that you download Visor or Visor. All right. So this Visor displays a mirror image of your device. Let me start with that first. This very one. Whether you're using an Android or an iOS, okay, it detects your device. My device is not currently plugged to my laptop, but when if I should do that, fix it, all right? So then click on it and wait for it to come up. Yes. Now this come in handy is actually an emulator, all right? This is what we call an emulator. You have the one from Android Studio, okay? So even Android Studio, I think the latest versions now picks up your device when it detects it, when it's plugged to your laptop, all right? So let's say you run an app, you can be able to play with the app, see what is missing, see the UI, operate it, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is just by the wayside. Now let's get to Flutter. Let's see, and I'm going to create a folder. Let's say Flutter. Now you can see how I name files, right? Okay, this is a folder, so I'll just give it Flutter app. This is a folder. So inside it, and now create what I need to create. All right. So, but then let's do this. If you're using Windows, you press Ctrl-Shift-P. You see a drop down where it says Flutter new project. Okay, and so on and so forth. We want to do a new project. By doing a new project, then it says other empty application or skeleton application, module, package, plugin. All right, so let's do this skeleton application, Flutter app. All right, so I'm just going to select this folder so that it creates the project inside of it. There's supposed to be like enter name. Okay, so what do I name this? Let's name this first. Okay, click enter and then wait for it to create. I know some of you might have actually done this. Yes. Template guide is no longer available. Okay. Why is it no longer available? Try that again. Okay. Okay. I didn't see this before. Oh, all right. Let's start. Let's do this. Okay, just do Flutter application. So it should be the first one, all right, not the skeleton. So let's wait for it to build. Okay. For those of you using iOS or Mac, I think it's Command Shift P. I think that works too. Yeah. Okay, so this is, yeah. Leave me alone now. Wow. Okay, so this is a generated template, okay, of a mobile app. A generated template. You can see it has the entry point here, although it's still loading because the run and debug profile is still here to display just above it. All right, so we have a class of my app that extends stateless widget. Okay, you're seeing the word const. Okay, my app super.key. Okay, yeah, it says this widget is the root of your application. Yes. Then your widget build context, all right, return material app, Flutter demo, team data, and so on and so forth. So these 8 templates, all right? So now you can see you have run, debug, profile. If you are doing just a DAX program, you only create a file. Because I know one of you made the mistake of trying to do the task on an app like this, and you were having challenges, but it was fixed. Okay, so now when you're here, let's say you want to run this app and see what happens. I'm going to bring up this and see what it displays. And then let's move this to the side. I'm going to click run. I'm going to use mobile, my phone. Since my phone is connected, it detects it, I just click. And then so we're going to be looking out for it launching, right? So while it's launching, here you have that tool. These are places you don't actually touch, okay? These are generated files. Yes, this very tool, especially. Then you have your Android folder. Your Android folder is where you have your Gradle version, mostly very important settings that applies to your Android device. Okay, it's giving this error because of network. Network is slow. That's why. But I'm going to like switch to, so just give me a moment to switch. Let's see. I think it should be fast. I'll disconnect this. Okay, so I believe we're still here. All right, I'm going to try it again to run. This time around, I just hope network is stable enough, because you actually need stable, like very good network coverage to run your apps. Okay, so that's one error you get to find. The reason why I could tell that it's network is because I'm familiar with some bugs when I see them. Okay, so as a programmer, when you start developing apps, you encounter bugs, all right, like series of bugs. There are bugs you can have and you'll be trying to resolve for 1 day, 2 days, sometimes 3 days, all right, just resolving bug. You are not even like touching the application, or you just want to fix bug. It happens like that. All right, so this is your Android. You have your Gradle, okay, so Gradle wrapper properties. This is 8.12. Okay, this is version 8.12. All right, then what other? You have settings to Gradle. These also have versions on them. This 8.73, this 2.1 Kotlin. Okay, so these very folders are not for one to tamper with, except there are necessary additions you need to make. Yes, you don't delete from these folders. You don't touch them to delete anything. You only just make additions, all right, when the time comes. Same for build, those who use iOS, then your library. I'll come to this. You have Linux, Mac OS, okay? Now, this makes it, that's why Flutter is called cross-platform, okay? Cross-platform. Then you have your tests, okay? this one too. This one only changes when you change the name of your application from the main file. Yes. This for building web applications, all right? Because from the options, when I clicked run, you could see that it brought out web, my phone device, Mac OS, all right, and so on. Then git ignore. These are for extensions that you don't want to see in your GitHub repository. Okay, of course, we're going to talk about GitHub. And if you don't have a GitHub account, I advise you open one. Okay, like go create one. Yes, because we'll dive into that too as well. Metadata analysis options. Okay, pubsec.log. Yes, this contains versions of dependencies, all right, different versions. Then this is a very important file. Here, it has details of the application, the name of the application, Flutter application, the description. You can actually change the description here. Then when you're building the app for the first time, it's version 1. Then when you start making subsequent versions, you start to change version 2, version 3. Yes, just like in your Flutter, you see version 3.24.4, all right, something like that. Environment, okay, SDK is the version of it. Now, this sign here shows that it's upgradable, all right? Can upgrade and work with higher versions, because the more you work with Flutter, same applies to other frameworks. They tend to upgrade, they make changes, all right? Innovations, all right? Then here, you see dependencies. In this place, there are dependencies that are needed for your app to run, for your app to function, like uploading files or picking files. So like pick a file from your phone, or maybe to detect, to do biometrics, like that, or to point out errors, or to set navigations, and so on and so forth. Dependencies come in here, all right? Then Flutter lanes, okay? All right. Now here, on this side, you get to comment here, like uncomment it, all right? This is where your images come in. Yes, if you have images that you want to use in the app, yes, because you're going to be having lots of them. This is like a URL that just points out to where the images are. Okay, then next you have fonts. You can do this. Okay, here you have fonts for your app, because when you're building, you're definitely following a design. Okay, and on the design we're given to you from Figma, they have what we call typography that has to do with fonts, the style of the fonts. Okay, the font family. So it could be any font. You bring them here. Okay, so I'll be showing you how to run through this. Yeah. Now let's leave it. Then other aspects too that will also be added to this very pubsec.yaml. Okay, here you control versions of the dependencies you download. Let me just, I think, if we go to this document, There's what we call flutter.dev. Or let me just put Flutter dependencies. Okay, so these are packages. That's packages. All right, this is official of .dev. Okay, then in here you can search. Let's say, for instance, I'm looking for which ones are very familiar now. Okay, let me see. I think let's just find one from here. Okay, now. No, not here. Yeah, these are packages, all right? So let's say image picker. Let me just copy this and place here. Okay. Image picker. All right. So there are so many of them. All right. Depends on the one you want to pick and use. All right. But these are most common ones. The ones you find that are most commonly used are at the top. Okay. When you click on this, it gives you image picker. This is a version of it. Of course, there are other versions. If you want to look at other versions, you click on this and you see this is as far back as 3 years ago, like 4 years ago. So many versions back then. But of course, you can't stick to older versions because older versions can't run with the current version of Flutter. So you pick the latest. This was done like 12 months ago. You can use within like this 3 months, if like, yes, within the month. Okay. Then on this README, this is where you read how to use it, how to make use of it. You read it, like you read. For some of you, it's like I noticed that some of you don't actually watch the videos, come and ask questions. Watch the videos, learn to pay attention, read documents. Okay. I also send resources to look into that too. So take your time, you read, follow, study, line by line. They point out, okay, an example, this is a function, all right? Get lost data, final image picker, assigned to image picker, all right? So, and so on and so forth. So this is how you, so there's for Android, there's for Windows, there's for Mac OS, okay? So depending on the dependency and their implementation and your machine, whether you're using Windows or Mac OS, it does always apply. Okay, so take note of that. Now let's go back to, okay, this thing is still running. Okay, all right, so that's it for that. I just wanted this to run. Now this is your terminal. On your terminal, you get to like carry out, like let's say you just cloned a new project, all right, or an old project, an existing project that has been built by someone, and you clone it. When you clone it, the first thing to do is to run flutter pop get, all right, flutter pop get. This actually downloads the dependencies for that application to run. Yes, most times you even get a notification on this side to say some dependencies are missing, should you download, then you click run up get. You just click the button from the notification of this the snack bar, all right? And then you start to download dependencies. Yes, so here is just for running commands, all right? Then your debug console, when the app starts running, it displays what happens on the app. This is where you see the errors. This is where you see the print statements. This is where you see the access tokens. You see what makes the app runs, okay? If there's an issue, this is where it's displayed, all right? So, and then here, I already talked about this for problems. Yes, so this is a rundown of the app entirely. Now, let's get back to this library. In your library, this is where you build or create folders that make up the screens of your mobile app, that make up the models, the logic, all right, the utilities, the colors, the text, and so on and so forth. Inside this library folder, here's your main. We already saw this here, which we clicked run, and we're still expecting this thing to run. Network is a challenge. Okay, but on your own, you can try to run it. When it runs, you're going to see displayed on the app a floating button, all right, with title, okay, Flutter demo. Yes, you see that. Then on the right side of your screen, towards the right, you see a banner, all right? Of course, that can be removed. Yes. Yeah, I just need this thing to run. Okay, so in your folder, in your library, let's say I want to create, let's say screens. We're going to do screens, okay? Then you can create more. Let's say models. Can do, let's say, controllers. Okay, and inside these folders, each of them will contain files. Here, let's say we have sign in dot. Okay, you can also have more of it. You can have sign up dot. Okay, inside here you have sign in model dot. Okay, here you can have sign in controller dot. Okay, just these three first. Now, if you notice, I'm actually like naming these files according to the folders. Here you can as well just still like add screen to it. Let's say, oh, does it? Then here you have sign up screen. That does it. Sign in model. Now this model is where you place in those class where I talked about class. Let's say class for sign in, you have user, right? And then you have this time around, let's say, final. Okay. Then you also have class user, first time around having required email, required password. What am I missing? Okay. This. Let me just see. Okay. String. Oh, okay. Must be initialized. There's something I'm missing. Let's start. Let me just do this quickly. Let me second this class to be fast. Okay, I think it's because of the app is still running. It's making things slow. Okay. All right. So this is how it is. Okay, I was putting class again instead of just user. So this is a model. This is how a model looks like. Email password. And this for signing. You can use user, okay, or let's say sign in. Sign in. Okay, this is a model. Now, in your screen, sign-in screen, when you want to do this, let's say Flutter is actually made up of widgets, all right? Of course, definitely we'll get into all of that. So there's a short command, STL. This is for stateless widgets, this is for stateful widgets. All right. Then there's a class of my widget that extends stateless widget. Okay. And then overrides widget build. Now from here is what displays on your screen. Whatever it is you put from under here displays on your screen. This one can be renamed to sign in screen. Okay. Just like you have here, you just name your class here because it's easier to identify. Okay. Very easy because you're going to be importing classes. All right. You're going to be importing of these classes, importing libraries. All right. Like the one I made mention of that's column IO. All right, like this one now, this is a library, Flutter material. If you comment this one out, you're definitely going to have errors because this stateless widget, all of this needs this library to work. Yes, Flutter material. So this is needed for it to work. Then you start placing widgets. This placeholder is a widget. Now you've seen that when I hover over placeholder, it shows arguments. These are arguments that can be placed within this inside this bracket. Okay, color, double stroke width, fallback height, child, all right, and so on and so forth. So you have like so many widgets with their arguments. When it comes to controller, now of course it has its way of syntax. Controller, what it does is it functions as the logical part of your app. For instance, when you pick up your phone and you want to upload, you just created an account, and then you went to the profile section and you want to upload a picture to your DP, like on WhatsApp or Instagram. This is the part that contains the logic. How that when you click on that camera icon or click on edit icon or text or button, whatever it is, when you click on it, it navigates to your gallery, pops up your gallery, then you select an image. That image you selected comes back to display on your DP. You're going to be learning all that, but this is what happens in this place. Is your controller, so it has to do with logic. All right, so this place you have to be like, you have to really think how it's going to work. Okay, because most especially when you're building solutions, what they expect to see is that they give you something to do and you made it to work, and it's working the way the user expects it to be, or the client. The client will give you work, say, okay, you do this, or maybe in your project, you'll be assigned a task. Okay, you work on uploading pictures. Okay, this one works on how that when I enter a password and the password, if it's not 6 digits, or if it's not more than 6 digits, it throws an error. Okay, or you enter a name instead of a username. This is where the logic happens. All right, your screen displays is the UI. Yes, just primarily the UI, where you see what you see to operate the app. Okay, this is really taking long. I don't know. Why is it that network in Nigeria is so frustrating? I actually experienced this yesterday. Yes, was it yesterday now or 2 nights ago? It was just throwing errors. But at least it works better at night than during the day. That's what I've come to understand. Because the traffic is not much at night. So that's when it works and works properly well. So this visor is what you need. All right. So if you've not downloaded it, you can go ahead to do that. Yes. Then it detects your device. All right. You connect your device via USB, because by the time you're doing your project, you'll be needed to come and display what you've worked on. All right. So another reason why I do tell some persons, like, okay, come to Discord, all right, meet me in room 3, is so that you can get familiar, all right, with sharing your screens, knowing how to use Discord properly, because the time will come where you as a developer, you'll be working in teams. So when you're given a task, you're expected to display your screen. You're going to display your emulator by the side, just like this. Yes, and then you run your app. While it's running, you are explaining that, okay, this is what you achieved. I was able to build the workflow, the UI, or I worked on the logic to ensure that, okay, after signing or when the app starts, it starts with the splash screen. From the splash screen to the onboarding screens, and then you swipe left, right, or it does that automatically on its own. And then down to the authentication screen. So that's what you'll be doing. So get familiar with Discord. Yes, get familiar with Discord so that you can be able to express and present in detail, okay? Very important. I'm just giving you some tips since network is just misbehaving. But anyway, I might possibly probably be able to maybe like share a video. Yes, but then I just wanted us to see how this works. Okay, then I think in our next class we'll start diving down into widgets properly. Okay, so like I said, this is your main entry point. This is your main entry point, and all of this make up the screen. Here you have stateful widgets. Here you have stateless widgets. All right, I'll talk about all of this definitely in subsequent classes so that you can understand the difference between stateless and stateful. Okay, yes, when to use stateless and when to use stateful. Yes, void increment counter set state. Okay, I know some of you used this in your task, so you can see where it's actually coming in handy. So gradually like that, you start getting familiar with all of these widgets and the concept. All right, but just if possible, give yourself tasks too. Like, okay, I want to try something different from the tasks we were given. That's how you grow. Okay, that's how you grow and become better. Yes. In our next class, I think we ought to dive in. Let me see. I think I'm actually going to send a lesson, class lesson, or yes, so that you have it on your LMS. Then you just go ahead to prepare ahead of Friday's class. Yes. Yeah, this is really taking a lot of time. Oh, this can be frustrating, especially with these recent updates. You know, recent updates are just becoming, I don't know. So, you know, previous versions actually do very well. Before you know, it's already running. Or should I run an app that's is not really, let me see. I just want to quickly run something. If I should do on this from app, we'll go. Let's see. I should bring this up. Let me just display to you projects. Okay. I'm going to stop this. Try this one. Now, this is a project I'm working on. Yeah, alongside with a developer too. This is how long a project can be. Okay, when you're building a massive project. These are just 100 files. Here you have assets. This one you actually add it. All right, assets, you have your fonts. Okay, funnel sans, bold, extra bold. Okay, then you have images, icons, PNG images, screen 1, screen 2. These are images. Okay, so because you have that, then this library. Oh, what is wrong with the chat? This thing now. Get on my screen. Okay. So you actually create this folder to put in here that contains your images from Figma. All right. So it's either you're using SVG files or PNG files for your images. Here you have SRC. This is core. This is a folder. Here contains the config file, the route. That is the navigation Then the theme, okay. Here you have features. These features contains the auth screens or the auth folder. Inside you have data. Here you have models repository, okay. So this is view models. Now this is the state management used in here is Riverport, okay. So definitely we'll talk about all those. Yeah, but let's see how this, I just want to show you how this thing runs. Go to the main, okay. Yeah, because I'll soon end this class now, or the class will soon end. I just want quickly. Now this is the main entry point, all right. You always have main entry point in any application. If you don't have that, forget about your app running. Or say you want to even move out of this main screen. Okay, so you can see all of this can be named this consumer stateful widget. All right, so these are a lot of stuff, but we're going to do basics. All right, so let's see if this runs. Just hope this thing runs fast. I should have even started with this. So get to familiarize yourself with this. After today's class, go engage some of those resources, all right? If possible, go back to the video again, understand OOP, all right? Then do more study on OOP, especially classes and objects, right? Because that's what is actually centered on, classes and objects. Yes. Okay, 154. Ah, dear Lord. Now, if you look at this app, at least on the problems, you just have 3 warnings. Yes, just 3 warnings. But anyway, that can be updated. Yeah. Why is network mad? Okay, I think I'll have to end this class now. All right. So I'm going to stop recording. Oh, okay, it's running. Let's see. Might still work. Okay. Okay. It's about to build now. Once we see this build, just know that it's about to. All right. So it starts with splash screen. Let's give it some time. Okay. The splash screen. Yeah. Then this is the onboarding screen. It actually does that automatically. All right. There's nothing I need to do or touch. Then it goes back again. Then you have the login. I should click on this, or I click on this, you can see this debug console is bringing up activities. So of course you can enter, type, and then click on this toggle, click on login, brings up this. You have your search bar. All of these things you see here, these, they are all widgets, all right? Widgets, simply widgets. This is your navigation bar. Of course, we'll touch that area too. Okay, click on profile, can switch. All right. Then when you, let's say, use your profile, let's click on this. When I click on this camera icon, should bring up, all right, and so on and so forth. I click back, I go back. So this is how an app runs. Yeah. So we've come to the end of today's class. So I'm just going to stop recording, and for anybody that have questions, okay, or let's meet in room 3, okay. Bring your questions, or you can paste them. Of course, there are some colleagues that can actually help you out. It doesn't always have to be me, all right? Maybe there's something you're facing that somebody already had an experience of it, and person might just put you through. Okay, stop recording.